All right, real quick here before we begin, go check out my friend Lexinator22. Give him a follow. Let's get that number up here over on Twitter. Huge appreciate him coming on. He helped me with the Shanks Masterclass I did as well. So appreciate him taking the time. And then also, if you're new here, if you can just hit the subscribe button, it's probably somewhere here. And just click that for me. It helps me out a lot. Chasing 10K, would like to hit that before August, so we'll see what we can do. And then lastly, a word from our sponsor, me. Feel free to check out vamptcg.com. We got a couple of sleeves here if you are unfamiliar. All these are in stock. And then, of course, we have the leader cases. Make your leader cases look great. Right here, like you can just kind of see. They look great, feel great. Check those out, and let's get into the video. What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and today I'm joined with my friend Lexinator22 here to talk all things Marco in OP11. I just played at the Oviedo Regional and unfortunately finished 5-4, but was 5-2, and then unfortunately queued into 2 buggies. But my boy Lexinator on a very similar list. We talked a little bit about the deck afterwards too, and just overall thoughts. And he was able to pull off in where was the regional at?
Amsterdam.
And he got top 32, finishing X2. Incredible showing. Could have gotten the top 16 and made it in the top cut, but unfortunately fell just a little bit short. But today we're going to be talking about Marco. Appreciate you coming on, Lex.
No problem. I didn't expect to come on again that soon, to be honest, but maybe it's a new career path for me.
Yeah, you know, it's your turn to get the channel going. The people love you. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. So first off, really just want to talk. So Lexinator really just built the foundation that we kind of gone off of. It's not too far off from what Asia was doing, but one of the big conversation pieces was, of course, the structure deck Nico Robin, which I think is where his initial list stood out. And this Nico Robin allows you with 2 Dawn, so it's literally like anyone from OP11. It's 1 extra Dawn for 1 extra K, so you're essentially 2 Dawn and you're KOing a 4K, which a lot of key cards now, like Zoro fall in that range. But then also with Marco's ability, being able to minus 2,000 allows you to also KO a 6. And then even going further, like, you know, with Monet, you can KO a 7, which is also one of those key numbers in the current meta right now, with a lot of people just playing 6-7s. But yeah, just want to pass it over here to Lex. You just want to talk through like the deck here.
Yeah, so this is the not the list from yesterday, but the one that I did a couple of weeks. I won the Chinois Cup with, but it's almost the same. So the Nico Robin has been in, out. But what I've noticed is that there are a lot of matchups where it's too important to cut. For example, the Purple Luffy matchup, you want to go first, obviously, over there, and you can directly clear Zoro Juro, or as you said, with the Monet, you can clear the 7K bodies as well. So versus Pluffy, you can stabilize the early aggression, and as soon as you can stabilize and go into new gates and then into like Rayleigh or like Sanji Rayleigh, that's how you win the game. And then you also have like these Red Smoker matchup where it clears weenies, it has to be answered. Versus Bello Betty, your only shot is going Deuce into Robin, into on your 6 Dawn turn, go for a double clear. Robin also, I noticed it hits too many relevant targets. The 4-cost Zero Juro versus Blue Purple, the 3-cost Zero Juro. When you want to take first from them, you can poke at leader while removing Bonclay or Zero Juro. It hits things versus Green Yellow Law, which is extremely relevant. I cleared a Teach with it actually, with like double raise max and some shenanigans. It's the thing is, when you miss Ivankov and you don't play Robin, you literally don't have anything to do early game except for play some Duvals or set up like Raise Max Duval Monet and don't really do anything. And Robin manages versus the aggro decks, which are not our greatest matchups, to stabilize the board early, because any deck we beat basically with the same game plan, which is to go Nugate into either Ace, Rayleigh, Sanji, or in an ideal world, Sanji plus one of those.
Yeah, yeah, and then like the ace is a huge, especially because everybody turns their board sideways, and then we're also in a world of 6K leaders, so you make that 7K a 4K. You get to essentially swing at 4K leader if they want to save that body, or you can just get that body while also leveraging potentially like a 5K swing. We usually are swinging 6K, which is where Marco kind of stacks up, because we essentially are going to commit that extra Dawn. We will talk about Robin in just a little bit, but I do think the one thing I do like that was like an addition in OP11 is the Nami. Nami allows you to have that 5 Dawn curve, which we really was just pretty much non-existent prior. In Marco, you really just like on 5 we're probably playing another Ivankov while stacking one, whereas Nami is a great 5 play and it's a value play, which allows you to, one, like you can potentially put cards back in your deck for another stack body later should you need to play like a Duval, and you can kind of like load cards back into your deck so that way you can hit them with the Sanji on potentially like 9. That's very bad and suboptimal, but it does come up and can be that winning, because Sanji on 9 is just overall incredible. So like 7 Dawn, we want to see Nugget, and if we're not, we're kind of already behind, but potentially like, using that Nami on 7, setting that up, and then allowing us to play a Sanji on 9 can be a huge tempo swing, especially if we're partnering it with like a Rayleigh or even like an Ace for a little bit more aggro, but it lets us go just a little bit wider and gain a lot of tempo and momentum at the same time. So huge fan of the Nami. But so yeah, so this was the list that I tried in Oviedo. The list was solid. Overall, I did misplay a Divine Departure, which almost cost me the game, and then I do believe you end up removing that card anyways, and I think that was the correct call. Asia did play it overall, and like I understand it because it can KO a 10, but most of the meta right now is capping at 7 bodies. There is the exception with like Blue Purple Luffy, but I think our matchup there is pretty solid as it is, and we don't need something like Divine Departure. But so afterwards, going to Oviedo, the biggest things that one, like I kind of missed was pudding, because one, I lost to 2 buggy, and if I had pudding, they played incredibly greedy. And so I really wanted a Charlotte pudding, because one, this deck, and same thing with like Blue Purple Luffy, but this deck was the first deck that could do it. It was the first deck that you could play pudding while establishing a meaningful threat. So Sanji pudding is very much a thing. So you can, if you had established any threats earlier, you could potentially swing like 8 or 9, depending on what body you'd established, and then they take a life and then hit them with a pudding and just take that extra card. I think that still remains a little bit relevant. Plus, with top cut events, I think just having the 1 pudding in the deck list forces your opponent to respect it just a little bit more, which again, really good for things like Buggy. Again, it is very much on the bad matchups, but even like Green Purple Luffy, which is a good matchup, but like 1 pudding can just rearrange their whole physical structure. So big fan of just the theory of pudding. I did end up cutting the Nico Robin, and I think for like Doflamingo, because when I originally played Marco, if you played Sanji on 9 and you set up your stack with Doflamingo, the great part is on 4 you can load in the card you want to play. For say like you have Rayleigh in hand, you can draw 1, put it on top, then play Doflamingo, and then go and set it back for when you play your 9, and then you play Sanji. One thing to note though, when you use Doflamingo, you can never bottom deck a card afterwards, because if so, you'll mess up the stack unless you factor it in and you have enough like before that like happens. So there's the opportunity for that. And then actually that's so wrong, because if you have 4, you're going to play Sanji on 10 anyways, but same thing, it's on 5. Same thing. I was like, wait a sec. Anyways, it's on 5, but you can load it in and then potentially use that. Or actually, if you have Monet for some reason, you still can't use Monet. Don't let me be out here just talking. I'm just out here talking. I'm out here talking. But
you're like undermining your own theory.
I am. But the reason why I cut Nico Robin is because Mask Deuce. And so now we can have this conversation, because like, so Mass Deuce is 2 Dawn and it KOs a 2K. So you could play Mass Dawn on 2 or 3. So Mass Deuce, and I did this once is you can play it out on 2. They play the Zoro on 3, and then you go to 4. You can go attach 1, and then play like Ivankov, stack Monet, play Monet, attach 2 to Mass Deuce, swing 5, then swing 6 on 4. And it's going to remove a 4K because you can use leader ability. And then same thing like Bond Clay, you can remove Bond Clay.
Or a 5k with Monet, but that you already started the argument. We don't really care about removing the 5 or the 4ks. We want to be removing the 6ks. That's where it's at with Robin.
Yes. But like overall, yes. Like like if you don't see Ivankov, Robin is a great alternative because you do get to play that control early, and potentially, they play the Zoro, you can remove it, but you also don't get to establish. So, like, it's tough when you want to, like, unless you have Emporio Monet, which is the greatest combo ever after Robin into Emporio Monet is quite possibly...
Game over.
Yeah, it's quite possibly one of the best plays out there, but I think prioritizing just like a Sanji on 9 with the Doflamingo can just be so much better. Because, like, most of these bodies, like, aren't a 6K. And, like, yes, with the Monet. I saw Monet so little when I was playing. I, like, forgot the card existed until I got to Ivankov, Monet, Robin. And there, I will give you, it excels incredibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to bet like Robin was honestly the MVP because I think there are a lot of matchups in this format where we actually want to pick first in general. Like there are a lot of decks that want to go first, that want to ramp, and Robin makes it also easier and better for us to go first. And also, yeah, like our worst matchups are the aggro matchups, and Nico Robin is like the only line we have there. So we're probably going over all the matchups later, so I don't have to get into it now. But Robin often gives us a chance in matchups that we're not supposed to have one, and it makes our good matchups better. That's how I look at it, because I usually don't win off of the Sanji. I usually spend my game plan as early as turn as for 3 or 4 on turn around the Sanji. I usually bottom it and want to draw naturally into it, so it's like a win more card. And my best play is always like go Robin into Eva something. Eva Monet is the best, but if it's either Eva Duval, it's also really annoying because that means next turn either my Ivankov or my Robin is gonna stick, which is gonna generate like at least 2 card value at that point next turn. So that's really annoying for my opponent.
Yes. No, I understand. Like Ivankov, like. The games that felt really bad were games that, like, I just didn't see Ivankov. Ivankov is also key in, like, all of your bad matchups because it just keeps you in the game a lot longer than you should be. Like, I was actually, it's funny, I got puddinged and I had one Ivankov, then I play another one, but it was blue-yellow Nami, and I was slowly picking them apart, and they just were, like, swinging at my face to get the card value because they knew if they played a card that they were just going to lose it because I had Newgate established. And then so I got hit with the pudding with 9 cards in hand, but I eventually like came back just through Ivankov because I was like, wow, if they start establishing now, I'm not in a good spot because I was very much big handing it. But Ivankov can bring you back in those moments, and just also because you have your leader ability, all the 6K bodies become 4s, and so you get to swing. Ivankov is just... shout out Steak Frank. That was the most brilliant card ever added to this deck.
Absolutely. And I think the combo with the Robin is just too insane. You at least have upplay, because like you said, when you're missing the Ivankov, like your deck is not a deck anymore. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. There's a bit, you can feel the difference. Like it's still doable, but like you need to see your other pieces. But when you see Ivankov, the deck is a lot more forgiving. And just like, you seeing not as great because it lets you go a little bit farther. It lets you protect your life, and it brings so much value, especially when everybody wants to play on curve and they just swing at this. If you give them 2 cards, you draw 1 card from Ivankov and you draw 1 card from turn. You're like breaking even every single time on protecting it overall. And so then just lets you find those pieces. And then like you can follow it up with the Nami and just protect it like that, which is huge as well. Just a lot of opportunity there. But you have to be conscious, like when you get caught bricked up, you can have too many cards for Ivankov, which feels incredibly bad. I was in a position once where I was like, do I play, like I could spit out 2 Raise Max just so I can start drawing again, because I was like, I couldn't pitch anything from counter. And yeah, so there is that, but yeah, trying to sometimes, you know, if you can counter out of the first hit and you have a Vonkov, 100% do it, just because then it's going to turn your draw active, and then your opponent either has to respect it or they disrespect it, and you just run through them. But let's go ahead and kind of, we can talk about your top 32 run, because there was actually a lot of things that stood out to me here. So first off, like PB Luffy is pretty free. Bello Betty was actually insane. That's a terrible matchup, but you pulled it off, so I'm very interested to hear about this. BY Luffy was always free in my opinion, just because like if you played Sanji before they awakened, you just win, and now they don't have Gecko, so it's probably like way worse. Green Yellow's pretty decent. I beat Green Yellow, you beat Green Yellow. Blue Purple was kind of wild that you lost there. Zoro was huge. Teach makes sense. But yeah, so you finished 8-2, which was huge. And then a couple, like, we have it's like Blue Dragon, and it KOs a 5. But I'll let you go ahead and kind of talk about, like, your matchups and overall thoughts on, like, this version of the deck.
Okay, so like I said, purple, black, the reason I brought this deck was because at first I had this idea, okay, we have a leader that's really good into all the Luffy leaders,
yes,
which are percentage-wise very represented. Like, especially in America, purple, black, Luffy got a huge metagame share. So I was like, okay, purple, black, Luffy is almost free. It's like our very best matchup. Green Purple Luffy, obviously still have to play it, but it's definitely a very favorite matchup. And at the start, I was very convinced that Blue Purple Luffy was also very, very good for us. But I'll get back to it when I go over all the matchups. So Purple Black Luffy, okay, basically drop Newgate, and they cannot deal with it. You clear their stuff every turn. It's really nice. Just if they play like a random tick card, you can lose to it, but it's hard to lose to it. Bello Betty, I've practiced this matchup so much. It's one of the worst. But I noticed the only way we can win is if we go second and we mulligan for Masked Deuce. If we go first, we just hope to the gods that they don't have the nuts and we can somehow stabilize. So we go second. I have Masked Deuce. I go Masked Deuce into Robin. My opponent goes all his shenanigans, and then on my 6th Dawn turn, I actually go Leader Ability, Monet, attach 2 to Robin, attach 2 to Deuce, and play an Otama, and I could attack on 2 bodies with 3 strings and clear 2 characters. So I cleared 4 characters in that turn on my 6th Dawn turn, which is thanks to the Robin just shouting out. So yeah,
you're selling me.
So obviously for clearing 4 bodies in one turn with Betty on Betty, because they have to pitch their hand to defend their bodies, because you're swinging like 5-6-6 on his bodies as well. And the other 2 you are easily KOing, like quite high numbers because of Leader Ability and Monet. Yeah, then obviously life is going great. So that's how I beat him. And then on 8th on turn, I followed up with a Rayleigh. Yeah, GG. Like, his board got cleared twice, and I still have a full board. He needs to answer it. He cannot. And you just win. But it's obviously the best that I can draw. Like, it was insane. Like, he still had everything, and I still won.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, that's a good one. So go second, mull for Deuce, pray to the gods they don't have the nuts, and then obviously going Deuce into Robin. Don't be greedy with the Deuce, keep him back. But I think when you play like versus a Goat Bello Betty player, they will also not attack, and they will just go wide and then try to kill you in one turn. Maybe it's a little bit different, and you get like this stall war where you're not clearing with Robin and Deuce, and they're not clearing, but that's not the point we got to. Black Yellow Luffy, actually I thought, I was over the moon. Because I played the deck for like 7 months, so I knew it well. I got like Sanji into big bodies, but at a certain point he went 11k leader, and I could not clear it with all my big bodies, and he had 5 bodies that he could clear me with the backswing, so I had to override 3 of my own big bodies with little blockers to not die on the backswing. And then in the end I only won because of luck, because he misplayed terribly with dividing for final turn. I'm not gonna lie, pure luck. Green Yellow Law, actually in testing, I played versus Skipas, which is a player that also won a regional with Red Green Law last year, and who plays nothing else than Law mostly. And actually, he was spanking me because I was like, I think this matchup is kind of fine. When I go first with Robin, then I can clear you can clear the bunnies real easy, the bunny blockers, you can clear the Bedje. Also, in this matchup, when not having Robin, it's also kind of hard because they play the new Bedje to protect their more important bodies, and you cannot be removing everything. So Robin is really major because you can sometimes choose to put a Cavendish on in their life when they have the Bedje. So the Robin makes it like a skillful matchup just by having it. If you're not having it, like they can just do whatever they want early, and you're kind of screwed. So the matchup I think is favored for Green Yellow Law when they play it well, but I think it's hard to play. But because I practice it so much, I know what the key points were. I also won the die roll and got first, which helped, and got the Robin. And then I could just like grind it out. Just have to calculate constantly and know the matchup, but I don't think it's favored. I think it's unfavored when they have everything. Blue Purple Luffy. So at the start of the format, the Chinois Cup that I won was because at that point, as you knew, I was saving all the Marco lists from the last 6 months in the East, and I was like, oh my god, this deck is good into all the Luffys. It's finally the time to bring it. And as the meta evolved in the East, Blue Purple Luffy, when there were a lot of mirrors, they play a lot of Rush Luffy, the 9 cost. But at a certain point, Lucci got pushed out of the format, and Marco became the control deck of choice to beat it. And then they started attacking Mihawk, and also well, as soon as they start dropping Mihawk on you, it's actually not favored anymore, but it's a 1 or a
Mihawk,
2 off.
yes, the 9 Mihawk, just that you literally, you just lose like you just
on the spot. On the spot, so that's what happens. You ask why I lost it. Yeah, he went double ramp and he went Mihawk on my no gate, and I was over. So it was actually not even Mihawk. It was Sanji Mihawk into on my no gate. Yeah, done. You're done. It's just done.
Yeah.
So basically, I at first I was like, oh, this matchup is really favored, but because at the start of our format, pre-starter decks, people were respecting UP so much that they were all respecting the mirror, so they were playing Rush Luffy and they weren't playing Mihawk. So that's at the start of format, I was having extremely good results versus Blue Purple, but then they started attacking multiple Red Rocks and Mihawks, and then it got actually it got worse. And then at a certain point, I started facing top players on the sim, and they actually, I'm gonna give a secret that's probably not nice for the Marco players.
It's okay,
but they
it's 20 minutes in. They'll never know.
Yeah, they play full Starve versus Marco, you have 0 chance. You have 0 chance if they play full Starve. That is honestly the truth.
That's partially correct. It is a lot harder because they're going to go after your bodies. If you go first and you get to play out a raise max early, Newgate, Rayleigh into like raise max, like you can keep their board clear. I triple Rayleigh'd in a game, and Blue Purple, literally, they never had a board. But if they starve you, you need to make sure that they never have a board, because they'll have to spend all their dawn establishing, and your bodies are too big from the swing, or they don't establish. Then you get
the odds of you having all that removal is a lot lower when they are not attacking live.
You have to high roll them. But like if you see, like if you open the pieces, you can get them.
Yeah.
But it's
and
not
obviously when they are attacking, you often have the piece, and the matchup feels good. But it's like, oh, I hope they don't have Mihawk on my new gate. That's basically what you have to hope for. If they do not, which is what happened in my last game, then obviously I could stabilize, and then you get this really fun game where you go like Sanji into bodies, into combinations with Ace and Raise Max and Rayleigh, where you can double clear each turn. Then obviously you win.
Yes. No, yeah. And to your point, like, it's really interesting because Europe is big on the Mihawk. I saw so many Blue Purples with Mihawk, whereas here in America and like in the North America, they are not playing Mihawk. And it's like so you can afford to be greedy. But yeah, Mihawk just if we get hit with Mihawk, we lose.
Yeah, actually, I played a version to tech for Buggy, where I cut out the 4 blocker chopper, the 4 cost, and put in 4 blue 4 cost Sabo, that protects your body and then makes the Sabo bounce to hand. You know, the Dressrosa card.
Yes.
Because then Buggy couldn't do Sables, and blue purple, if they can't remove the Nugate, they're screwed. But then they just Big Mom that thing, and then Mihawked it a turn after, and it was still good enough mostly. So so it usually was not that efficient. But the blue purple matchup is basically, as you know, you splash out all your early threat, like you play early, ideally Ivankov, Robin, whatever shenanigans, and otherwise it's just literally raise max Duval. You play it all out, keep your hand size low for random puddings, take all the life that you can, at least take the first 2 life. So you're high enough, sometimes even go down to 1, because the Big Mom at some points has to hit race max and stuff like that. And that's how you play the matchup. And then you go for pokes early while you still can. And then late game you hope to go body into body. If the Nugate sticks, you can do a lot of double clears and it feels really nice. And Duval is your king. Yeah, Duval makes it so they can't really attack into your Nugate. And they have a really hard time because it's expensive for them to deal with your little blockers.
Duval is really nice, especially because, like, you play Duval, they have to pay 3 to get rid of it. So, like, pay 2 for essentially potentially like 3K, 4K encounter, depending. So it's a very good trade-off in like your Dawn spendage. But go ahead and tell me about the Blue Dragon, right? Like the film event that KOs a 5K. What led you? How was that this event?
Actually, shout out to my buddy Chinois, which actually living with me for a week before the tournament just to play test.
Wow.
Yeah, dedication, week of holiday. And playtesting, and at first it was a Divine Departure, but at some point I noticed also in my bad matchups like the Bello Betty, the Teach and the Buggy, that Divine Departure wasn't fixing it for me. And it's a good answer, Divine Departure, also when going second versus Green Purple to clear out their Sanji Pudding. But then I started noticing that it's kind of expensive, it's kind of clunky, and the main thing we want to be doing is hit the 7K anyway, also versus Buggy. So if we want to have a shot versus Buggy, we want to do a double clear so we can get rid of the Croc Mihawk. And then this card came in along because you can go Robin and this in 1 turn, or like on Tendon you can go Nugate plus this in 1 turn, and you can actually do a double clear. So that's how it started. And then I started noticing that the random trigger was good, it's like Seaquake would be better versus aggro, versus like Zero, Bello Betty, but this is better versus Green Purple. So then the hybrid is that this card is the more universal one, because with Leader you hit a 7K, with Leader plus Monet you hit a 8K, and with Raise Max you can obviously hit an 8 and higher up. So the card was really, really good. I'm very happy that I played it, honestly.
Got it. Yeah, and I mean, it just makes sense, right? Divine Departure was incredibly expensive, and a lot of times your opponent's going to go after our board because we don't have a lot of value. Like, Nami and Ivankov carry the deck in terms of, like, our value proposition. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump in and just kind of talk about, like, deck building, right? So there's a bunch of different approaches. I think, like, overall, again, like, your initial list is pretty streamlined to what Asia did, except for like the Nico Robin, which again is like one of those tech choices, which makes sense. And then of course some of these, so like Izo, the biggest card in our deck is Nugate, and you want to see Nugate, but we're not playing a ton of Whitebeard Pirates as we would before with like, you know, like Atmos and Jozu. So you could run that package. The big challenge is the number 1 deck that these are going to be good against. Like, it can be good because you can bounce Zoro Joro, but Atmos does require you to play a larger Whitebeard package just for his effect alone. But it can be big because you can bounce a Zoro Joro, you can bounce a Bond Clay, of course, allowing them to ramp once more, but keeping that pressure off of you as they go into those larger Dawn turns. And then if they have stage, though, in green purple, both Atmos and Jozu are incredibly ineffective, and if you whiff on Izo, it feels absolutely terrible in a deck that has such low value proposition, as opposed to others being a 4-life leader, not having many cards that replace themselves. There is like Richie. Richie's just another 2-cost blocker that you can use for Ivankov. People are playing it in the Animal Engine too because it, of course, is an animal and could be played. And then there's Nico Robin. We kind of talked about that. Doflamingo, again, I'm a big fan. Put it in any format where you have open deck list. I think we have to include one pudding just to respect it, because otherwise you just get disrespected with value. And if they don't respect it, you can just get so much. Because once, again, Sanji into pudding can be a huge move because it gives you a lot of momentum, plus potentially removing 3 cards in hand, and potentially putting back like a giant or anything like that and bricking up your opponent, or even just taking away the good card. Like, you watch him search a Sanji pudding, you just hit him with a Charlotte pudding and make it all go away. The Blue Dragon, Seal Water Stream, we talked about that. Divine Departure. Beckman, I think Beckman was one of the cards that I battled with a lot. But, because, if you miss 7 curve, there isn't, Nami's the best play afterwards. And just being able to potentially, trash a 6K and just trash in general feels pretty good. But definitely want to know, your thoughts in terms of, deck building and just, overall tech choices. What did you consider and whatnot?
All right, I'll go over all of them, but I'll try to keep it compromised for all of them, because
for sure.
So the Blue Dragon and Divine we had. Pudding, I had Pudding in my deck to test the week prior, because I thought was the only card that actually got to kind of fix our buggy matchup, because we can just give them a random hand. I noticed in the Blue Purple and Green Purple, which are the most common decks, that we are poking 6 all the time anyway. Versus Green Purple, we didn't need it. Versus Blue Purple, we also were poking 6 every turn. They weren't that high on hand size, and I didn't think it fixed our bad matchups, which are Teach, Betty, Green, Yellow, Law, Zoro anyway. So I was like, okay, if it's not really fixing that, I understand the one-off, it's never really bad, but I think space is that tight that I just didn't play it, but I can definitely see why playing it. The Doflamingo, also space, it's a good card, but I went for the Robin package, which I covered earlier. Animal version, I definitely tried. I also thought to Anthony Way, which was the Treasure Cup winner with Marco, Animal Marco before, normal Marco before, and then later some tops with Animal Marco, and Noor, who won in a couple of weeks ago, also with Animal Marco, the regional. But I think Animal Marco is just worse into Blue Purple, because they don't play the Race Mag package, which is actually what fixes the Blue Purple matchup, and I think it actually can be done in the Animal build, but I enjoy playing it less. And the right build hasn't been found. And then Izzo, I've spent 2 weeks actually before the last week of testing on a Whitebeard build, obviously because I like the Whitebeard Pirates, and I came to the same conclusion that you want to see the new gate point. If you miss the new gate, your deck basically goes from it's still a favorite, but you can win matches to you're not gonna win. If you miss new gate, your odds of winning drop. Statistically, I think crazy amounts. So I tried the Izzo Atmos Jozo build. I think Jozo doesn't really hit relevant targets, because Sanji Pudding usually gets staged upon. And you can't really hit relevant targets on Jozo. Also because on your 6 or 5 on turn, you usually want to be doing other shenanigans. And then the Atmos also, I love the idea, but the deck constriction with Izzo, Atmos, and Jozo, I played it all, was so narrow and so lean. And for some reason, it just didn't click. I didn't hit enough random targets. In theory, it sounds good with Atmos bouncing as a Rajuro, but often it came down to the wrong turns. Going first became worse. Your deck space is tight. You have to plug a lot of things together. And I dropped it all together, even though I actually was a believer in the build. It just didn't end up working out. I think... Yeah, the Robin package in the end just performed way better for me, but I think there's something there. And then the Beckman, I understand when missing the 7, that's brutal. Honestly, if you're missing the new gate, it's brutal. And I get adding the Beckman to have that extra option. I would completely understand. However, people like not playing Rayleigh and instead Beckman, I think is completely wrong, because versus Blue Purple, if you're not hitting Newgate into Rayleigh at some point, you're kind of done. You need to see the Rayleigh because the minus matters so much. Also versus aggro decks, if you're about to stabilize, it's always Rayleigh that's doing it. So Beckman, obviously great card, but space is tight. And we just want to see the new gate. It's as simple as. And the way I play it with this deck is that I play everything towards the new gate. I often, on 3 done, sometimes in certain matchups I don't even play the Robin. I just play Duval. Look at my top 3 cards. Instant bottom down, cycle with leader ability. So I saw 4 cards already. If in the matchups that I need to see new gate and have time, I would literally do that. Drop the Nami on 5 or 6. Also search for 3 and bottom. I go through so much of my deck with my leader ability and Duval. There's almost never a game, I didn't play a Deval before my 6th on turn. You take a couple of life, you play the Devals, and you use leader ability. So statistically, you almost never miss the no gate. So that's why in the end I opted for not playing the Vampyr build.
So it's funny because like I remember I actually almost got top 8 with Marco. The first event that Marco was legal, I played against a Green Bonnie, which at the time, Green Bonnie is still a very favored matchup, but Green Bonnie at the time was incredibly free. And I literally bottom decked like every single turn, and I didn't see a single large body at all until I was like beyond dead. I was literally just playing Ivankov beatdown. I had like 3 Ivankovs that were swinging, and eventually I just lost them. And then I just didn't find anything until like they had already actually established some meaningful threats that I just couldn't answer and catch back up. I think about that all the time because I was like, top 8 easy. I was like, we're locked in, and then I just lost. And I was like, oh, that's what I get for thinking. But I do want to talk about, so before we kind of jump in like here, we can kind of talk about this, but like just kind of like overall combinations in the deck. So like we kind of talked about it already, right? Like Nico Robin into Emporio Ivankov into Monet. So like you play 3, you play Nico Robin, then on 5 you attach 1 to your leader, which again, you know, you wouldn't have 2 while playing Ivankov because you don't have 2 Dawn, but because we do that, you know, we get to draw 1, stack Monet, get that card out of there, play the Ivankov, but then we also get to attach 2 and then potentially swing like 6, 7 and KOing a body, giving us like offense plus creating a threat that 2 they need to answer one of them, being Monet or Robin. And so it's likely that you kind of get to keep one, but then again you can KO like up to a 7k because leader -2, Monet -3, and then KO Asanji Pudding. I actually had this come up because I swung at them on my 3 and they hit a trigger to ramp 1. So instead of going to 4, they went to 5 and they got to play out Asanji Pudding. And I was like, oh, and then I got to hit this back to thankfully remove it and then keep the momentum like going my way. Because had they stuck the Asanji Pudding a turn earlier and I wasn't able to answer that, they could kind of run away with it. But like overall, what are some of your like favorite combos that like you've hit off? Because like there's a lot in terms of like total minus power, how you do it, because you can play Building Snake in advance. That's what I've had to do. Like when you go 7 into 9 and then you go Rayleigh Newgate, then you can play out like a Building Snake on that to set up for like Sanji, Rayleigh, Building Snake, a whole bunch of things. But is there any like combos that you like pulled off that people might be able to learn from?
Well, it's basically not really basically, but you have to with this deck. It's you play the game on hard mode because you need to. The deck is so fair. The deck is so fair that you need to know every single matchup, and you need to know in what matchups Raise Max or like Building Snake are good or not. So there are a lot of matchups where you can get bricked up because the deck had a lot of bricks. So you need to know what matchups the Raise Max is good, and also in that matchup if you can play it out early or not. Because the Raise Max gives you like crazy combinations in the mid game sometimes, which give you the only shot of winning. The card is really good, really versatile, but that makes really odd combinations, obviously. The most broken one we've talked about already, which is go Robin into Eva Monet, and you're clearing a 7k. You're already, again, making propaganda for the Nico Robin, because Nico Robin at that point acts as the Ivankov, because they swing into it. You can, if they swing 6 into it, you can even give 2 cards, because you will draw again with the Ivankov next turn. And you have like a triple pseudo blocker, because Monet, Robin, and Ivankov generate so much value throughout the game. And it's also very important to know when to protect them or when to let them go, because you're going to follow up with all your big costs and won't have the Don to use them anymore. Anyway, that was not really your question, but so crazy removals. When I was playing Divine Departure plus Raise Max plus Monet, you can clear a 12k leader ability plus Raise Max. Yeah, well, it's always Raise Max that makes the crazy combinations.
Yes,
basically.
Raise Max.
So you need to know what matchup is good or not, and to keep it or to bottom it early. If you see it and it's bad in the matchup, Sanji and Raise Max are my most bottomed cards because they're good in specific matchups.
Yes, and it's important. We'll talk about that because I do want to touch on like when to bottom deck, because it is incredibly important. And like typically though, like good rule of thumb is just like if they play low cost, you don't need Raise Max. If you don't have anything good, you might need raise max just on the premise that you don't have anything good. My favorite thing is like, and again, like to your point, we were bottom decking Sanji because Newgate, building Snake Rayleigh, leader is actually busted because you can KO a 9k and then you can KO because you go lead, you building Snake and then you're gonna bot minus something, so then it's a 6, and then you can use leader, and then you're gonna do that. So you can essentially KO 2 9s because you go make it a 6, you play Rayleigh, you minus it by 2, or you minus it by 3, then you KO it. That's a 9k. Then you go Rayleigh minus it by 2, leader ability minus it by 2, and then you rest Newgate KO 9. So like that alone, like it's not always worth the Sanji because that's like, and that's what you want to play against blue purple, right? That's the ideal curve because you're boom. They're like, oh, I just Sanji. You're like, boom. Now you have nothing. GG.
Exactly.
Like,
so the
like,
game, like you literally described the matchup.
yeah. So like, there's a lot there, but essentially that combo can remove up to 2 9s, and if you have Monet, you can remove a 10 and a 9. So if they hit you with the Rush Luffy, you can still remove it. And the best part is because you have Newgate, you can actually, if you make something incredibly weak and it's a 5, you can swing into it instead of swinging into their 6k leader and either get it for free, then swing 8 at their life, or do a bunch of pokes at it, get cards for free, then rest the Newgate and KO it. So there's a lot you can do that puts them in awkward positions with the minus, especially against 6k leaders. Before you use your Newgate, you can get free pokes, command cards, or keep your Newgate swing, which is something incredibly important as well. But yeah, to kind of transition, I don't actually have a slide for this, but bottom decking. I just want to talk about this briefly because I think it's the hardest part of Marco because you need to know what pieces you get. Like, you know, we talked about it. You have to like think 3 turns ahead, and it's kind of like Sakazuki as well in the fact that, you know, your pitching cards, Sakazuki can get them back. We cannot. So you need to know, like, you know, that's why we essentially play 4 copies of like everything. So that way it's like, okay, like, you know, we have same odds of seeing it again as anything else because you never know. But like, if you don't have your pieces, you have to be bottom decking something. If you don't have Newgate on the way up, outside of like your Emporio turn, you want to be bottom decking every single turn. Like if you play Nami on 5, you know, you hit Ivankov. Ivankov reveals a piece that isn't important and you don't have a piece. Ivankov is like an extra draw one because you're going to bottom deck that. So you get to go a little bit deeper. And so it's important to know too, like when to use Avant, because it's essentially an extra cycle, because you're like, okay, I don't need that, like this isn't advancing my game state, this isn't my late game, I don't need that. Bottom deck. And you're like, leader ability, bottom deck. Or like you're like, Nami, draw 3, now I need to get rid of 2, put 2 on the bottom if I still don't have what I need. Then you're going into 7, and hopefully by the time then, you know, you could go through, you go turn 1, you go draw 1, which is incredibly powerful, just drawing an extra one. But you can essentially cycle through potentially like 6 cards depending, going into your 7 Dawn curve. So that's incredibly important. But I really like, you know, if you're playing against big bodies, I never want to bottom deck my building snake unless I'm going to die and I can't bottom deck anything else, because it does come up so much that 3k goes to distance. But against something like green purple Luffy, black purple Luffy, I'm usually bottom decking them, because if they for some reason play like black purple, if they play the 9 drop Luffy, it is what it is. It's just going to be there. I'm going to have to deal with that and potentially like weaken it, soften the blows, but I'm going to have to win before that just runs away. Outside of that, you just want to like bot deck, like, you know, if you have multiple raise max, you know, weak deck, you bottom deck that. Against green purple, you're probably not going to be in a position to play Sanji. Any deck that can put pressure on you, you're not really in a position to play Sanji. So any aggro deck, you want to get rid of that, because you're essentially just going to focus on staying alive and keeping the board clear. But also, like, you can Rayleigh blocker with a Duval, which is incredibly good too, just for staying alive. You're going to remove a body, take a little bit of counter power off the board, and you're going to have a blocker to protect you as well. So I usually bot deck Sanjis in any aggro matchup. But yeah, wanted to open up to you to just kind of talk about bottom decking.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the greatest skill about playing this deck. You constantly have to be thinking turns ahead, which is like, and the reward for it is not that great if you were just like playing blue purple. Like it's like it's masochism.
It is.
But okay. Yeah, but it's very rewarding when it comes off. Like, I don't think anything better in the game than when it comes off with Marco. So yeah, you get these games where you have like Sanji Rayleigh double raise max no gate openings, and you're like, yeah, I need these in this matchup. Or you have like 1-2k, 1-1k double raise max and stuff like that, and you get into these points like, yeah, I will need this in this matchup, but how much will I be able to counter? You need to think like, okay, what does this deck do, this opponent? What will be his attack next turn? What will be his attack the turn after if he removes my Robin or Ivankov or whatever? So you always have to think turns ahead to know how much counter you have to preserve. And that's honestly, you can go infinite with complexity in that if you would honestly like it. Which is the only reason you can get far with the deck, but it's not probably worth the learning curve on that, because you have to focus all day. And if you put on the same time in blue purple, I think you'll get better results. I'm like the worst promoter for this deck ever.
No. It's the same thing with Shanks, right? Like they're like, why you still play Shanks? I'm like, I was like, I like adversity. No.
Yeah.
Like you're just playing up, but I think it's like it's very fun at the same time. Like, dude, I hit a blind Sanji into Rayleigh on 9, and I just I win here. Like again, like Sanji and hitting a Sanji on 9 can be so strong. But let's go ahead and just kind of jump in to talk about the matchups here, and we can kind of talk about that just a little bit more. I think general rule of thumb too is like, if you can take your opponent's curve, if their curve is really good, like Lucci, I like to take second from Lucci just because, one, if they play Jack on 7, which they don't do anymore, but if they do, it's easier to remove on second, but also like it's easier for us to remove Kuzan if we go like 4 into, Nico or Mask Deuce, and then like they can either play Kuzan on 5 or remove your body, and that they don't establish the Kuzan, we're in a really good spot. I did lose to a Lucci, but overall, again, going first, Newgate is such a strong card in Marco. Like, if Marco is a 5-life leader, I think Marco's the best leader in the game. I stand on that.
Definitely. Yeah.
It just matters. So there's so many games where I just lose by like 1 life. So it's like, if I just had 1 extra life, I just win. Which is kind of what Ivankov kind of buys you, like a pseudo life, because you counter out the first hit and then you get to draw a new card. So it's like replaced itself, but it's almost like you took the hit and just kept that card. It's kind of how like I think about Ivankov, which like gives it a lot of the value, plus like again playing a blocker too. But yeah, want to make sure like you think the same thing, like, mostly want to go first, but in some instances we're going to want to take our opponent's curve, just because like our curve is pretty flexible, and going second is not bad because Ivankov into something is usually pretty great, and we get to guarantee that setup.
Also, if you go second, you guarantee on the 10 drop the Sanji into something. So I always take my opponent's curve away, which is basically because we don't care. I always go for my opponent's curve any match. So I think second in general is better if we want to like stick our own game plan. But but the thing is, we only take a second if our opponent's second is better. So it's literally every matchup. We don't have a better one. Our best one is taking away what the opponent wants to do. Point.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead. Just so like, not going to cover all of them, but like the big 3, the top represented, is essentially like our favorable matchups. We kind of talked about it before, but green purple, I think you can go first or second. We kind of had this conversation, but overall, like if you go second when they play their Sanji Pudding, we can literally like just remove it, and then their next turn goes and they're going to like Sanji Pudding Zoro, and then we set up like Newgate, and then we just get to remove it. Or even like Rayleigh, and if we have Monet, we can remove it. Like a lot of different things there. But essentially, like once we play Newgate, we just protect Newgate. Every body they play will die. And so the biggest thing is just making sure we're in a position to not lose to Rush Luffy. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on the green-purple.
I think you described it already. It's literally what we do. Yeah. I think the matchup is definitely favored. I pick first because of the Robin. If I wasn't playing the Robin package, I think second indeed would also be fine. It's drop Newgate and protect. So you have to see Newgate in this matchup. So again, the bottom decking part comes in. Duval is really good because late game, I mean, using Yusohachi for them is not what we like. They're low on counter already. If they have to use Yusohachi, it's usually when they have to go for game. So you can set up these game states. Whereas it's really awkward for them when you have like multiple blockers. So use it, because if they use the 3-cost 0 instead of developing other stuff, we're usually not in a bad place. Razemax is not really good in the matchup, so I bottom it. Sanji I bottom, but the matchup is just good in general. The blue, yeah.
Yeah, and then so it's just very like it's very textbook. Everything they play is a 7. Newgate literally removes everything that's a 7 for free. Like, I will play a double Newgate in this matchup, and it feels phenomenal because I can remove every single body that they play. And like,
watch out for Luna, though. If they still play Luna, that sometimes catches me off guard.
Luna has been ebbing and flowing in the meta right now. I saw a couple this weekend, but like last weekend I didn't see any. So it's like I did see Giant Fist, which was crazy, but it it won in the game. So unfortunate for me. But yeah, I think this is one of the number one matchups you just want to see. Like, especially even if you play Divine Departure, like just remove it. You can just guarantee remove Sanji Pudding, then you get the 7 and you're removing everything. Luna, when people were playing for Luna, it felt really bad. Then everybody moved away from Luna. Like EBO1 or EBO2, sorry. Everybody was playing for Luna, and then they moved away from Luna, and we're like, yeah, baby. And then so like, and it's slowly trying to make its like way back. But yeah, no Luna, no problem.
By the way, I tell you why first is better. By the way, I thought because if you go first, then they cannot do. The only way they would win is if we go second and they go Luffy Taro into Sanji Pudding, and we go to 8, and from our 6 to our 8 we can't double clear. And when we go first on 7, we drop Newgate, we clear the Sanji Pudding they just played, and then on their 8 they will go Luffy Taro into Sanji Pudding, and then we just go leader plus Rayleigh, and we get to clear Sanji Pudding plus Luffy Taro with Rayleigh plus Newgate, and we always win from there. That's why first is better.
You got me. That's right. Perfect. Yeah, that's textbook W right there. And then blue purple Luffy. Again, to your point, if they do starve you, it can be really hard. You can. The funny part is you can just high roll them. We talked about it. If you go Newgate into like Rayleigh into like Building Snake, Rayleigh, Leader, Newgate, you're clearing 2 9Ks, so like they can Sanji into anything. You can clear them both, put a little bit of pressure on them with a 6 swing, and like once they just run, they're gonna run out of board. And then once they do that, like you have a ton of swingers. Like Sanji is a card that can come up in this too, because if
Sanji's the goat in this matchup.
Yes, because like you can do what they do. And if you remove their like Zoro and they didn't ramp on time, you're essentially doing it at the same time. But ours is a lot stronger with the Newgate, because Newgate plus Rayleigh plus Leader is guaranteed removing something and taking a lot of pressure off. Like, because you can go Leader and you can do Rayleigh, so you can actually remove just off of Leader and Rayleigh, you can KO a Katakuri, which takes away their blocker, which is huge. You want to remove that because it applies too much pressure. So you want to prioritize clearing that. But then also, like, there's the potential you get that extra 2. You can remove a 7, or again, if you played out a Building Snake earlier, you can remove it like up to a 10 potentially with like Monet, or even like, you have Monet. You can clear 2 8s with a Monet. And you go Monet, get 2, then you get a little bit more pressure. Like, there's just so many, there's a lot of different combinations. And my favorite thing to say, I essentially, I'm like, I cash advance, and I'll play out like a Building Snake. And if they want to play 9, play a Linlin and tuck my Building Snake and heal me a life, I'm absolutely okay with that. As long as I have another one. But yeah, like, I mean, 1 life, I gain a life, and you spent 9 Dawn, and then I'm still going to remove something. Incredible. My favorite thing in the world. So, like, definitely don't be afraid. Like, be cognizant, especially against, like, doubling back to, like, green purple Luffy. Don't play out Building Snake early, unless it's, like, you can play it out on 3, because when they go to, or you can play it out on 4 if you're going second, because when they go to 5, if they don't play Pudding, you just win. And so you can go, I've done, like, Pudding, or, Nico Robin, Building Snake, and then if they want to play the Zoro to swing into it, I just time walked a turn and delayed their Sanji Pudding, and then I get to go to 6, remove whatever they played, and they get to go Sanji Pudding, then I get to play my Newgate, and it's really good. So like 4 is the safest turn to play anything on Luffy, but blue purple doesn't play a ton of removal. One thing to be mindful of is like your blockers if you're gonna play 2, like they do play Gravity Blade. I got Gravity Bladed, felt pretty bad. So do be like, you know, you play the Nami, you play a Duval, and they just Gravity Bladed away. You're like, oh, okay. But overall, yeah, I mean, as long as you don't get starved, but you can still like high roll them. You just need to see building Snake, Rayleigh, Newgate. Building Snake, Rayleigh, Newgate is the keys to winning blue purple.
Yeah, 100%. That's honestly the thing that I would keep playing Marco when I was convinced that it was favored, but I don't think it's favored anymore if they know when to starve. And honestly, like I played 0 green purples. Like, what are the odds of that? Like, I brought this deck to play all day versus these 3 decks, and I saw 2 blue purple, which I lost 1, and 1 black purple, and 0 green purple. I was hoping to face like 6 or 7.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy out here. But yeah, let's go ahead. Again, black purple Luffy is like the same thesis as green purple. Black purple.
It's worse. Worse green purple. That's just what it is.
Yeah, because like they're 7K leader, but we don't care because like you have to have Luffy to facilitate that, and you go 6. We go 7, play Newgate, and you'll never have them again as long as you play the game. 9 Rusher is a bit of a problem when they play that, but I had a guy play 3 and I still won. So it's not like, you know, and they're a 4 life leader as well. And then when they're a 4 life 5K leader, and you can hit Sanji on this matchup too, oh man, hubba bubba, feels so good. But yeah, like all their bodies are weak. Rayleigh's gonna make them weak. The only thing again to watch out for is really that Rush Luffy, because Rush Luffy is actually insane in this deck. Arguably almost better than green purple at this point because you get to do the -2, because Luffy wasn't good before, so like green purple had the best use of him, but now he has like a really, because you're gonna get 1 active and you never minus because of the leader ability. You never actually minus, whereas you don't need Sanji pudding to like keep it down efficient. So like if they're healthy, they can just use it and hit you hard, and they can just do it again, which is incredibly dangerous. But again, you know, even if you can't remove it, like if you want to prioritize removing the quote beer Luffy, you can hit it with a Rayleigh, and you can do leader Rayleigh -2 on the beer Luffy, KO him, but then leave the 1 Rush Luffy at a -3. So then he's a 4K, and a double swing on a 4K is really bad, last I checked. So that is a combo you can do. I've done it before because it just takes away. You literally might as well just play a new one at that point. Like, that's how inefficient it is. So yeah. And again, like,
I have no added things to that. It's for us specifically in this matchup. It's worse green purple. It's slower, easier to remove, non-threatening green purple. We almost have no bad cards in the matchup. So it's basically just get your Newgate.
Agreed. And then, yeah, let's just kind of touch on, just to kind of wrap things up, touch on unfavorable matchups. I mean, there really isn't too much we can do in these. I know, like Buggy's just, if Buggy doesn't see Croctua, whatever you want to call it, they lose. Yeah, they lose. But if they see it, it is an incredibly bad matchup. And like your rushers are going to matter. Just eating every card and just putting as much pressure on them as you can. Like, you have to try to take the role of the aggressor and hope to gosh you get there. Sanji also can come up. If they go first, it's like 90-10. But if you go first, you have a lot of opportunity. Like, I think I Nami'd and set up like a Sanji so I can spit out, because if you can spit out 2 bodies, it takes away from Buggy. Then you can like hit a rusher and hit them like 3 times as they're already kind of low. Like, it can come up on the way there. But yeah, Buggy is incredibly scary. Again, going first, it drastically changes it. And then like if they don't see the 1 card, Pudding can help here. But you just gotta pray. Like, Buggy is bad. Same with Betty's a little bit more manageable because Betty has always been like very high rolly. So if they see it, you just lose, right? Like, Betty's just, if Betty sees it, Betty's just destined to win, kind of like Nami. And so it just really is what it is. But you can, like, once you establish, if you can get to be healthy, Ivankov is going to matter here. Staying healthy, keep it, you counter out, but then you get to keep those cards. Taking when you need to, preventing Karasu, things like that. No Karasu, no problem type. But when you're a 4K leader, it feels terrible. And then
Absolutely.
Teach just makes you a bunch of bricks. I mean, you can't beat Teach. every card in your deck is just a vanilla with bad stats.
I've only won it when I went like Mul, and I had like Raise Max, Monet, Robin Ivankov, and I just was playing weenies out, and they didn't hit the one-off double remove, the 6 cost. That's the only way I've ever beaten it with this build. Like, if you want to beat Teach, it's possible, but you have to take like Red Rocks, Raging, Gravity Blade, Ace, Marco, which are all not that good in the deck in the format, so we can't beat it. We just scoop it up. Bet it's exactly as you said. And then Buggy, I've tried to fix this matchup so bad. I've played it, I think, 50 games just in the week before the event. And the thing is, my Chinois, which I was playing against, at a certain point, well, he got it quite early. The only way we beat Buggy is if they actually swing into us. If they just keep their bodies standing, there is no way we do anything. They just go Sables into Buggy, it's over.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, I mean, yeah, like, because if they do, because, like, we're so efficient, again, like, Ivankov, like, same thing, Ivankov in both these matchups, because it gives you a little bit more resources and helps you stay alive, because when they're swinging 8s, if they're not directing it at your face, that's huge. So, like, if you get a 8k worth of counter from a 4k body, we're up, and then, like, honestly, in this matchup, I don't hate having 2 Ivankov, but, like, again, it's very not good. It is, because then they have blockers now, too, and trigger blockers, so, like, even if you potentially have lethal, you can just lose anyways, but super appreciate...
Stables.
Sables, yeah. No, you're good.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so, like, you know, just everything just makes us cry to sleep at night. But these are bad matchups, but if you dodge these, you can have a phenomenal run. Like, everything else is pretty decent or favored. These... Nami, too. Nami's okay if you play Pudding, but Nami is still also... Just blue Nami isn't great, but everything else felt really solid. I only ever lost, like, just unfortunate events, right? Like, or, like, you know, it is what it is. But I super appreciate it. Any last advice you have for anyone wanting to play Marco here in OP11?
Well, if you ever want to play it, this seems like the best moment to do it. It's the format is a jungle anyway. Like, I know a lot of good players bringing any of the decks on the screen, for example. Nothing is a bad choice. It just depends on the matchups you face, and it seems to be that anything can be your matchup. So I think that Marco is in its best spot that it's been. If you're not wanting to play animals, this is the time. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth the time you put into it. But if you just enjoy playing a very fun deck and enjoying a win with a deck that's very rewarding to putting that time in, then it's a deck for you. If you just only want to win, I'm not sure it's the very best choice. But for local level or like for a regional one, you want to challenge yourself, I think it's a very fun choice. It's my favorite deck to play by far.
Got it. Yeah, no, I've always loved playing Marco. Well, super appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Go check him out over there on Twitter. I'll have his handle here, but thanks again.